Hi, thank you for tuning in. The last episode we talked about how to pick a good lawyer. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that, specifically about how much should I pay my good lawyer. You're watching Own Land in Kenya and I'm Solomon Wangwe. So, you've identified a good lawyer to work with according to the criteria I shared about in the last episode. So the last question is, how much am I supposed to pay? It's one of the main reasons a lot of people take shortcuts and go wrong in the land acquisition process. So here's the good news. Lawyers are supposed to be paid according to what we call the remuneration order set out by the Law Society of Kenya. It's a basic structure that determines how much they must be paid as a bare minimum. Right? There may not be maximum stipulations that will depend on exactly what the lawyer is doing for you, but you should at least know how much they're supposed to charge you at a bare minimum. So the Law Society of Kenya says that if you're buying land priced at anywhere from 1 shilling to 5 million shillings, you're supposed to pay the lawyer a basic legal fee of 2% of that value. So let's say you're buying land for 5 million shillings, which is the maximum amount for that range. You're supposed to pay your lawyer at least 2% of that, which is 10,000 shillings, right? It also says that if that amount is less than 25,000 shillings, you should pay 25,000 shillings. So minimum of 2% or 25,000 shillings, whichever of the two is greater. After you've figured out what the basic legal requirement is for that fee, what they will do is add 16% VAT on top of that. That is something you can't get away from. That's a fee that goes to the government of Kenya for the service that you're receiving. And then thirdly, they will do a third component to the fee, which is what they typically call disbursements. Disbursements will cover things like legal fees and payments to be made to, say, the KRA for stamp duty, which is a requirement. There's other fees to do with title deed registrations, compliance certificates, which you will pay the Ministry of Lands. Those are small fees ranging anywhere from 500 shillings all the way up to 8,500 shillings for the most expensive transactions. And those will be part of your disbursements. Included with those will be things like courier services, photocopy fees. If the lawyer has to print, so many documents that will take about 100 pages of paper, they have to recover that cost as a business, right? So they will include that cost. Now, I'm saying this because it'll be a good guideline to use just to make sure that your lawyer is not fleecing you, because it also does happen. If your disbursements are priced at 100,000 shillings, you might want to question and ask for the details for what the 100,000 shillings is covering, right? So you need to be empowered by knowing what the remuneration order says. You can search out that information by visiting the Law Society of Kenya. You can ask the lawyer to share that schedule with you, and that will be a good basis to start with. I'll also just say that very often you will get what you pay for. So don't get hung up on this lawyer being, 50,000 shillings more expensive than the other one. Sure, it's important to work within your budget, of course, but if your lawyer is willing to take less than the remuneration order stipulates, two problems with that in my view. First one is that he is breaking his practitioner's code and his obligation to work within the Law Society of Kenya guidelines, which makes it illegal. Secondly, you will probably get what you're paying for. They may not expend themselves with the necessary energy and enthusiasm to get this transaction done for you properly. So, know what the remuneration order says, get the information from your lawyer or visit the Law Society of Kenya website and be empowered. I hope that information helps. If you have any questions about this or you have comments you want to make, please feel free to do so on our website, www.goshenacquisitions.com. All our social media platforms are up and running as well. You've been watching Own Land in Kenya. I'm Solomon Wangwe. Stay tuned for more information on strategic land investment.